Okay, this isn't going to be a long lesson. I prioritize the study in the Bible as mandatory and as a way of life, and process a week's worth of study in turn to upload a lesson every Monday at the beginning of the week. And if I don't, and am absent from doing a lesson, well, something's amiss with me. Something happened. But this lesson will be shorter than the normal, not from the laxity of study, but because what is coming up here in Amos needs to be separated from the symptoms of judgment, as we've gone over thus far in Amos, and today in verse 5. Hence the remainder of the chapter 4 here in Amos, verse 6 through the end of the chapter to verse 13, well, it's basically going to be dealing with a belt whipping to God's people. And like I said, it needs to be separated from the symptoms, these judgments. And we'll go over the last idolatrous symptom here in verse 5 and begin the belt whippings next week. And that'll take us through the end of the chapter 4 of Amos, chapter 6 to verse 13. So Amos chapter 4, verse 5, I'll begin with verse 4. Enter Bethel and transgress. In Gilgal multiply transgression. Bring your sacrifices every morning, your tithes every 3 days. And we went over these verses last week in the lesson Palatable Worship. Verse 5, today's lesson. Offer a thank offering also from that which is leavened, and proclaim free will offerings. Make them known, for so you love to do, you sons of Israel, declares the Lord. And here are, as last week, more sarcasm from God through Amos. Offer a thank offering also from that which is leavened, for so you love to do. So now, in the Old Testament, there was a thank offering under the categorization of a peace offering. And it involved being offered up to with leaven. Now, leaven is certainly used as a type of sin, but not always. Not always. There was a sacrifice, a thanksgiving offering that was an actual peace offering that had leaven in it. So let's look here at Leviticus chapter 7, verses 11 and 12. Now this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which shall be presented to the Lord. Now in verse 12, and I think in verse 12, right here, is what's being referred to here in Amos. Offer a thank offering from that which is leavened. Here in Leviticus chapter 7, verse 12. If he offers it by way of thanksgiving, then along with the sacrifice of thanksgiving, he shall offer unleavened cakes, mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers, spread or anointed with oil, and cakes of well-stirred fine flour, mixed with oil. Now in verse 13 here in Leviticus 7, there's the other side of this. With the sacrifice of his peace offerings for thanksgiving, he shall present his offerings with cakes of unleavened bread. He shall present his offerings with cakes of leavened bread. Leavened bread. So we can see here that the prominent aspect of a peace offering is right here. Now for us today in the new covenant, well, let's look at the connection of leaven, along with Christ as our Passover, who he fulfills that leavened and unleavened thing. And this verse here is Paul dealing with fornication in the church that has got to be dealt with. It's got to get a hold of. Here in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 6 through 8. Your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the whole lump of dough? Clean out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, just as you are, in fact, unleavened. For Christ, our Passover, also has been sacrificed. So there's no need for continual Passover. Christ has 100% fulfilled that feast. Christ was sacrificed, done, fulfilled, you see. Pure bodies under the person of Christ and his finished work. So if we go here to 1 Corinthians down to verse 8 of chapter 5, let us therefore celebrate the feast, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Now back in Amos, he tells them, offer a thank offering from that which is leavened. He's instigating them to just go ahead and violate, as they have all other things of God. They violated everything else in their disobedience. Just violate the Leviticus 7:12 aspect that we just went over. You see? So they probably didn't even know, well, they weren't aware of this thing because of their religious mixing, their doctrinal cocktail of Mosaic Judaism and the make-your-own-way theology. Watered down the doctrine and knowledge of what God required of them, of his people. If we've seen so far in Amos that the priests weren't teaching soundly, so therefore the people weren't hearing it. They weren't hearing it. Amos verse 4, verse 5 again. Offer a thank offering also from that which is leavened, and proclaim free will offerings. Make them known, for so you love to do, you sons of Israel, declares the Lord. A free will offering in the Mosaic mindset was something very personal. It was personal between the offerer and God. Not to be bragged about, as like in sounding a trumpet that so-and-so gave an enormous donation or an offering, so we're putting so-and-so's name on a brick in the sidewalk by the entrance to the church gym. It wasn't supposed to be like that, like a lot of it is today. Putting your name on that brick. A free will offering was very private. It was personal and private, to express the heartfelt feelings of the worshiper towards God, being that the offerer considered God to be their all in all. So Amos said to them, sarcastic of course, and proclaim free will offerings. Make them known, for so you love to do. See, God's instigating them because he knows their heart, to break the very spirit of the free will offering. For so they love to do. Now let's see what Jesus speaks of this blasphemy in Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise you have no reward with your Father who is in heaven. When therefore you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be honored by men. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, that your alms may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will repay you. See, Christ, he continues calling out the Pharisees. In Matthew 23, for the Pharisees were advertising their free will offerings. so they can be seen. They can be noticed by men. In Matthew 23:5, Christ here again. They do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they broaden their phylacteries and lengthen the tassels of their garments. See, that's all outward stuff. That's all arrogant, prideful, look at me, outward stuff. It's all outward. So Jesus taught that when we pray, to not be as the Pharisaical hypocrites that prayed, that prayed out in the middle of the markets for all to see. For all to see. When we pray as Jesus Christ requested of his slave servants, we go into our closet, and the Father that sees and hears in secret will reward openly. That's not talking about publicly and reverently praying in church with your church family, your brothers and sisters in church. It's not talking about that. It's reflecting against this outward advertising of impostor righteousness. Our closet is within. You can speak to God in your closet at a stoplight, standing in the rain, while you're being persecuted, or at a quiet table where you do your study. Your closet, most importantly, can be keeping yourself busy. When that devil, your mind, starts trying to contaminate your spirit, you can be in your closet. Get right in there when that time arises. No matter what your physical body is doing in daily life, your job, driving, gardening, whatever, your entire day and what you make of it will reflect just how organized your closet is. Till next time.